Bill O'Reilly here, special edition of the No Spin News, Friday, June 28th. Stand up for your country. I'm working Fridays. I thought that was behind me, but it's not because of the history that was made last night in the presidential debate in Atlanta. And I was all over the place, way overexposed, TV, radio, you name it. But right now, you are going to witness the best analysis of that debate in the world. I promise. And if I'm overstating it, you let me have it. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. All right, let's go. Talking points memo. I told you beginning in early March that something big was going to happen to influence the 2024 presidential vote. You remember that. I've said it probably too many times. Well, last night was it. That was it. That was huge. That was the worst presidential debate performance by a candidate in our history. It was pathetic. It was depressing because this man is in charge of all of us. And it is dangerous. He should not be in that position. And there is no doubt about it anymore. Let me prove my case. So we begin with the two men entering the debate arena. They hate each other. No eye contact, no handshake. No handshake at the end. They despise each other personally, big time. Trump looked a little tired, okay? But he didn't look bad, and they were shooting him tight, which means you saw close-ups of him. You didn't notice this, but I did. They very rarely, CNN, shot Biden tight. Biden was very pale, his voice was raspy, and when he started to decline in the debate, very quickly, there was something put out that he had a cold. But that did not stop him from going to the Waffle House after the debate. But he did not look good. Okay. The moderators, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, were told before the debate, and this is an anonymous source, so you don't have to believe it, but I know it's true. They were told by the new CEO of CNN to not allow their liberal ideology to be demonstrated during the debate. They were ordered not to do that. And the reason was that CNN is in so much desperate trouble. They are now below 500,000 viewers in prime time. Remember, I did 6 million viewers on the two runs at Fox News for The Factor. So the debate begins, all right? And in the first minute, Biden makes a big verbal mistake. Go.
The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done.
15,000 new jobs? Of course. He meant 15 million new jobs. Pretty significant mistake. I've made mistakes like that. I've misspoken. But that's a big one. 15,000 new jobs we've created. Come on. And he didn't hear it in his mind to correct himself. When I saw that, I went, gonna be a bad night for President Biden. All right. Then, in 10 minutes into the debate, I want to be very precise here so you follow what I'm following. 10 minutes in, the President of the United States totally collapses. Go.
We have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24% 25%, either one of those numbers. They'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Incomprehensible. Gibberish. Now, it was painful to watch that for me. I know a lot of people despise Joe Biden. I don't personally. I think he's the second worst president in history. I've said that too many times. And I'll back that up in my upcoming book. But I'm sitting there going, remember, everybody in the world's watching this. And he's going, trillionaires, no billionaires, no billion, no million. And then we finally beat Medicare. What does that mean? What does that mean? And he's throwing out stats that are absolutely false. But they both did that. Okay, but you go, uh-oh. And I knew then that Joe Biden is finished. He is not going to be on the ballot in November, I predict. And if he is, it's going to be a landslide for Trump. So the Trump people want him to be on the ballot now, after that. Okay, so that was 10 minutes into the debate. But that was just the beginning of the verbal chaos. Go.
They had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people, the whole idea of computer chips. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Now, Trump was fairly gentle about the verbal gaffes last night. He was restrained, Donald Trump. And that was a good strategy for him, because this is like, somebody down on the ground getting kicked. And there's no doubt about it. It's all right. It's tragic. That's what it is. Now, Biden had maybe 2 or 3 good moments in 90 minutes. Here was his strongest moment. Go.
He sat there for 3 hours watching, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done.
So obviously talking about January 6th, Trump really didn't have a meaningful reply to that other to blame Nancy Pelosi for failing to call in the National Guard, which is true. Pelosi even admitted that, and we extensively reported on that. But that was a high point for Biden, saying that Trump didn't do anything for 3 hours. That's true. That's true. Okay. Now, on the Trump side, his strongest moment was pounding Joe Biden over the southern border. Roll it.
And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders.
That was devastating. And remember, he could have been worse if Trump had said, the President of the United States has not called any of the victims of the migrant crime, which he hasn't. We went over Lake and Riley. We went over all of that. Just today, a young girl in Syracuse, New York, was murdered, migrants charged with it. So Biden then is in a spot, right? He needs to rise up because that's the most emotional thing about the whole debate is the violence stemming from the open border. I want you to listen to this soundbite very, very carefully. This is the worst statement I have ever heard or read in all of my research on the presidents. The worst statement by a president of the United States. Roll it.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous.
Are you kidding? I really don't know what to say. There's a lot of women, young women, being raped by their in-laws, spouses, brothers and sisters. Does a rational human being say that? No. It's not about cognitive decline anymore. It's about rationality. That man, Joe Biden, does not know what he is saying or doing, in my opinion. That was frightening. Then he said this. Go.
We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position.
Well, at 9:33, the Border Patrol Union issued this statement on X, quote, "To be clear, we have never and never will endorse Biden." Now, all the liberal papers and everything like that, Trump's lies, Trump's lies, Trump's lies. Okay, you saw it, you heard it. Flat out, there's Joe. Now, I'm not going to do balls and strikes on lies and exaggerations. That's insane. Okay? But the union in the middle of the debate goes, no, we never endorse them and we never will. It doesn't get any more clear than that. Okay, so the closing statements, I was going to play you the closing statements, 38 seconds, but I'm not going to do it because they're so pedestrian. They don't mean anything. Usually a closing statement in a debate is like to make you soar. Both Trump and Biden, it was just the same old, okay? So I'm not going to even bother playing it. Let's go to reaction. So one of the most powerful Democrats in the country is David Axelrod. He works for CNN. He was the architect of Barack Obama's victories and the probably closest advisor to Obama even now. Here's what Axelrod said.
I think what it says to a lot of people, a lot of active Democrats is, man, we can beat this guy, but I don't know if we can beat him with the president.
Scott, we haven't heard from you.
You can't beat him with Biden, all right? MSNBC, it was a funeral, okay? Joy Reid, you know MSNBC, okay? You know what that is. Roll the tape.
Joe Biden's job was to reassure them tonight. His job was to calm his party, to make them feel that, yes, I can do this. I have 4 more years in me. I have the ability and the stamina and the strength to do 4 more years. He did not do that. He did the opposite of that. He made them more panicked.
Incredible statement from a woman who everything's about race, white supremacy, Biden's the greatest. Not anymore, apparently. CNN also, almost a funeral. Go.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. But he had a test to meet tonight. to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that.
The only one we could find besides Jill Biden that thought that Joe Biden did well in debate was Governor Gavin Newsom. Go.
Well, not on the substance, he won the debate. I'm old school. I'm old-fashioned. That's what matters to me.
Now, just keep that in mind because Newsom is being considered to replace Joe Biden, which would be good for the Republicans and Trump because Newsom has wrecked California, wrecked it. And for him to say a statement like that, you know what you're getting. All right. Newspapers, full-screen newspapers. Here is the L.A. Times. Quote, headline, Biden's verbal stumbles, Trump's morals of an alley cat. 6 debate takeaways. Reuters News Service. President Biden struggles as Trump stretches truth in first debate. Biden falters as Trump unleashes falsehoods during the presidential debate. They're also similar. Here's a Boston Globe, very liberal paper. President Biden struggles as Trump stretches the truth in first debate. It might be the same guy writing all of these. All right. Then the New York Times, which is absolutely panicked now. Trump's debate performance, relentless attacks and falsehoods. Doesn't even mention Biden. Doesn't even mention it. Washington Post lost 77 million last year. Biden stumbles in fiery debate as Trump spreads falsehoods. All right, that's fair reporting, right? Fair headlines from newspaper industry around the country. I got a million of them. And then on the other side, the right, the conservative, there was gloating. Go.
Well, the reality is, the discussion beforehand is, were they going to drug him up? I think they gave him a lobotomy instead.
Well, look, I think they're going to desperately try to get Joe Biden off the ticket because he was such a disaster tonight, but they can't. It's too late.
All right. I wouldn't be gloating if I were the Republican Party. Trump, again, was restrained. That now, going forward, would be a strategy he might consider. He doesn't need to attack Biden any longer. Everybody has it now. Any honest person has it. You'll still get the zealots. You'll get the zombies. You'll get them. They'll vote for Biden. But any honest person knows that Joe Biden is finished. Okay? And he is. So Trump doesn't have to hammer him. He can certainly point out what he wants to point out. But looking forward about what Trump's going to do for the American people would be a better strategy for him, in my opinion. All right. Now, I was on TV both before and after the debate on News Nation, which is a network on the rise. And the reason it is because they are making an attempt to balance things. All right. So I go on Chris Cuomo's program. He's an ardent liberal. I'm a traditional guy who will challenge that kind of thinking. And you see it. And it works. Okay? And you don't see that on Fox. You don't see it on MSNBC or CNN much. You don't see it anymore. So there was a fact check by News Nation anchor Elizabeth Vargas. Go.
He said it was a made-up story, that he said there were very fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. He's on camera saying exactly that. He said migrants are living in luxury hotels. They are not. They're living in hotels in New York City. They're definitely not luxurious.
All right, on the Charlottesville thing, I wrote The United States of Trump, a best-selling book, #1 on the New York Times list, and I investigated exactly what happened there. All right? Apparently, Ms. Vargas did not read that book. So I had to fill her in. Go. The fact checked on News Nation was wrong. I'm sorry to say it. But I wrote a book, The United States of Trump, and the good persons on both sides remark was made in the context of taking down Confederate statues. That is the truth. Documented truth. So Trump was talking about the demonstration in the first place was fueled by one side wanting to take down Confederate statues, the other side not wanting to do that. And Trump said There are good people on both sides. He wasn't saying that the Nazis who rolled into town were good people. How many times have you heard that? How many times? And that's why the press has lost all credibility in this country. Okay, so I summed up the debate on News Nation last night this way. Go. Biden's not going to be on the ballot. Biden's not going to be on him. He's not. He's not going to be there. All right? He's going to do what LBJ did in '68. He's going to retire, all right, health reasons. They'll go to the convention. Biden will give his delegates to
in Chicago again.
The chieftains.
In Chicago again.
Right. And in Chicago
all
again.
Over again. Chicago again.
With the pro-Hamas nuts causing as much problem as they can.
It'll be chaos.
Because they're really anarchists.
It's going to be chaos. But I'll tell you,
Biden is not going to be. He's not going to go up against Trump in November. It's going to be someone else. Well, and my money is on Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Now, I could be wrong on that, obviously, but that's my money is on it. So summing up, this was an absolute disaster for the Democratic Party. It'll have wider implications I'll tell you about in the final thought on our society. Every American will be affected by that debate last night. Every single one of us who live in this country will be affected. And that's a memo. Okay, now for another perspective, and I'm going to give him some room tonight. The always engaging Bernard Goldberg joins us now from North Carolina. He is the purveyor, as you know, of BernardGoldberg.com, very provocative website, fact-based, which we like, all right? So Goldberg has been listening to me bloviate for 22 minutes. What say you?
First, I would like to express my gratitude to Joe Biden, because by comparison, he makes me look almost okay. Almost okay. Now, I jotted down just 5 quick points, and I'll race through them, Bill. Biden wanted the debate to dispel concerns about his age and about his mental fitness for office. Big mistake, because his age and mental fitness for office are the only thing people are talking about today. 2, when CNN and the New York Times and other liberal journalists call his performance a disaster, even calling for him to drop out of the race, you know the Democratic Party is in full panic mode. Point number 3, Biden surrogates, including Josh Shapiro, who you just mentioned, were all over television today saying, yes, he simply had a bad debate night. No, 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 no. That was a bad debate night is when you get something wrong, maybe a couple of things wrong, and it's fixable. Joe Biden's mistakes were not fixable and are not fixable, because what was revealed to us in real time on live TV was how much and how far he's deteriorated. 2 more quick points. Fact checkers are all over Donald Trump today. It won't matter. All that matters, the only thing that matters, is that Biden came off as mentally unfit for office and Donald Trump came off as relatively sane. And finally, Democrats now have a real Kamala Harris problem, because if Biden does not appear on the ballot, if he does drop out, and she doesn't get the nomination, you're going to hear yelling and screaming all over the place about racism and sexism, and it's going to be coming from left-wing Democrats. What they usually aim at Republicans is going to be aimed at the Democratic Party by Democrats. Karma.
All right. In your opinion, who would be a more effective candidate right now at this point in history, Biden or Harris?
You know, why don't you ask me if I'd rather get poked in the eye with a fork or stepped on by Haystacks Calhoun? No, that's
a wrestler, by the way. Nobody knows Haystack Calhoun except me and you and some old people. He was a wrestler. It was Killer Kowalski, right?
601-pound wrestler.
Right.
Listen, from a Democratic point of view, That's not a flip a coin, and they're both bad. Heads they lose, tails they lose. From Donald Trump's point of view, it might as well be Biden because people have seen something that they cannot unsee.
All right. Now, at top, I said Tapper and Bash, the two moderators from CNN, were ordered not to let their ideology show. I believe that is 100% true. How do you think they did?
Yeah, I thought they asked reasonable questions, even good questions. What I didn't like about it, and it's not their fault, it's the problem of the format. They asked questions, the candidates answered whatever they wanted to answer, ignoring the questions entirely at times. There was no fact checking, so anybody could say anything and get away with it. And then they'd go on to the next question. I don't fault them for that, but it was not a good look.
Okay, if I had been the moderator of that, I never would have agreed to those rules. But if I were forced by gunpoint to do it, I would have said you didn't answer the question, and I can't do anything about it. That's what I would have said into the camera. Now, I said I didn't think it was a bad debate, even though all your points are valid. I predicted they wouldn't answer the questions. They didn't answer the questions. Trump took my advice. I told in a message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com, the smartest thing Trump could do before he answered any question was to pose his own question, okay, which he did. And he corrected Biden, and he threw stuff at Biden back before he went into his answer. That was smart. I didn't mind the debate. It wasn't boring to me. And that's it for me. I don't want it to be boring. I can assess, all right? I'm smart enough to do that. You disagree, right?
No, I disagree. You said you enjoyed the debate, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was a very important debate, one that needed to be had and seen by the American people. But to enjoy something like that, look, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. Let me make that clear if it needs to even be said. But I almost felt bad for the guy.
No, I said that at the top too. I didn't enjoy his suffering or his meltdown. That's not what I enjoyed.
You enjoyed the show. You enjoyed the show.
It was. I sat there and I wasn't bored, like I am in 90% of the television news presentations now.
That's a fair point.
Right. That's all I wanted.
Because it's canned. It's
and I know both candidates, and I know what Trump did in 4 years, and I know what Biden did in 3.5, and there is no comparison there. Final question for you. I believe now what's going to happen is that the progressive left, which takes a huge hit last night, and I'll deal with this in a final thought, are going to pull out every smear, everything they can, and direct it at Trump in the next 2.5 months. They're just going to try everything they can. Whether it's true, whether it's not true, it is going to be unbelievable attacks on Trump. Do you see that coming?
Yes, but not only from the hard left, from the progressive left. I saw it coming today on TV from Trump surrogates. They start out by saying he had a bad debate night and immediately transition to all the things they don't like about Donald Trump.
Oh,
and
you said Trump surrogates. You mean Biden surrogates. You saw Biden surrogates.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Biden surrogates. Thank you. And they're mainstream Democrats. They're not the hard left.
Yeah, but they're not going to get into you had sex with a porn star while your wife was pregnant. I mean, you heard Biden say that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
that was
desperate. It was desperate.
Right. That was demeaning that office to an extent. I mean, you could argue Bill Clinton, but that's what you're going to see.
Can I make one more point quickly?
Sure.
You remember during Watergate, Bill, when it was closing in on Nixon, Barry Goldwater, Senator Barry Goldwater from Arizona, along with the Republican leaders of the House and Senate, went to the White House. They didn't tell Nixon he had to resign, but they said you have no support in Congress, virtually no support for the impending impeachment proceeding. 24 hours later, Nixon resigned. I was trying to think of who has the gravitas, the stature in the Democratic Party to go into the White House and say, Mr. President, it's time to leave. I can only come up with one name, Barack Obama.
That's right. And he met with Biden today, I understand. And that's the message that he delivered today. Barack Obama told him he got to get out. But you'll have to drag Jill Biden out screaming and kicking.
I totally agree. Totally one. She is the, if there's a villain in all of this.
Oh, she's absolutely. All right, BernardGoldberg.com. I am demanding that you go to Goldberg's website.
Thank you, Bill.
But I have no enforcement capability, Bernie. See, I can demand, but everywhere we go, they can give me the middle finger.
I want people to fear what will happen to them if they don't follow your suggestion.
Yeah, I know, but I have no enforcement power at all. All right, thanks, Bernie. Very good discussion. We appreciate it. So on the subject of Kamala Harris, here's what she said after the debate. Go.
First of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
Yeah, sure he is. I mean, it's just like, you just have to close the door, get off my lawn. Last night's debate has turned American culture around. Let's go to the mail. We've got Javier Baez, Managua, Nicaragua. And I pronounced that correctly. Bill, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but why would Biden's team let him go through the debate? Why were the CNN moderators so good they didn't bail Biden out? Because they couldn't bail Biden out. Couldn't interrupt him, and you couldn't do it was a very, very structured, here's what the moderators can do, here's what the candidates can do. As far as why did they put him up, they thought that after the State of the Union, Javier, where Biden got through it, that he could do the same in a debate with no notes. Pretty insane, right? There you go. Dan Jermick, Iron River, Michigan. I feel sorry for Biden after watching the debate. I question how his wife and others close to him would even put him in this position. It was sad. Joe Biden should be ashamed. In my opinion, Joe Biden wants power, and that's it. Okay. Sharon, I admit I'm shocked that CNN did a fairly decent job moderating debate. They did manage to keep both candidates on topic most of the time, but President Trump had to rebut Joe as needed. But they didn't keep the candidate, Sharon, on topic. Candidates answer what they want. There was no holding them accountable for that. And that's just the way it was. James Milner, Keswick, Virginia. The debates are what I thought they would be. They didn't tell us what they were going to do for our country. I would have liked more specificity, and that's what I'm recommending that Donald Trump do going forward. Joe Biden, why? He's wrecked it up. I mean, I don't know what else he could have said. Bruce Taves, Winnipeg, Canada. Did Donald Trump just write up a list of answers he planned to give tonight and decide to read them? To heck with the questions. He took my advice, Bruce. All right? He wanted stuff out there. Trump wanted stuff out there, and he got it out there. And Biden could not rebut. Eric, concierge member. We have a very special concierge program I'll tell you about in a moment. Wasn't until halfway through the debate that anyone started hearing Joe Biden was sick. I suspect Biden caught his cold a few days ago retroactively during the middle of the debate. Yeah, all right. But he looked frail. That's all I can say. I don't know if he's sick or not. Ken, concierge member, enter Michelle Obama as planned. Possible. No indication. Possible. Mark, concierge member. A lot of concierge members here. I wonder what all these Hollywood elites thought about the debate. Just a couple of weeks ago, they shelled out all that money to help Biden. They don't think anything. There's not a lot of thinking going on out there at Hollywood. There's a lot of pandering. There's a lot of butt kissing going on. A lot of thinking. Robert Kumza, Saddlebrook, Arizona. Bill, you stated the courts would stop Trump from performing any mass deportations. As a historian, you should know the USA has had mass deportations in our past history. Trump would use these as established precedent to make his case. He can make his case any way he wants. And Eisenhower had a mass migration out, but it's a different age, different time. You want to deport somebody now, they have to get due process. 11 million due process, Kates? There you go. The final thought of the day. Joe Biden pledges if he is reelected, he will raise the corporate income tax in America from 21 to 28%. That means that you, the consumer of products made by corporations and companies, will pay more for everything. It'll be a double dose of inflation because the corporations pass all that tax stuff on to the consumer. This is what progressives want. They want the federal government to tax corporations and wealthy individuals up to here so they can give away money to people who are not as affluent to buy their votes. That's what it's about. The progressive movement got murdered last night. Joe Biden is their guy. Never before in this country has a president been so beholden to a group as Biden is to the progressives. If he's out of there, the progressive movement falls apart, which is a good thing for every American, even though many don't know it. That was the most important thing to come out of that debate. The progressive candidate self-destructed. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage here on the No Spin News. Please go to BillO'Reilly.com over the weekend. We got unbelievable stuff from everywhere on the debate. New column on Sunday. Thank you very much for watching and listening to me, and we will see you on Monday.